Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this session on audit to FP&A. Most of us who are starting our careers with a classic accounting qualification, like a graduation in accounting or a CA or an ACCA, or a CPA for that matter, we would be exposed to financial statements, auditing financial statements, preparation of financial statements, right? We would have a fair understanding of what that is. But today, that is not enough. For you to progress in your career and achieve that CFO role someday, right? You need to have a balanced understanding of commercial as well as compliance aspects. And commercial aspects is something which is not necessarily taught to us in our qualifications. This is something which we have to gain understanding as and when we progress in our experience. So that's what we'll touch upon here today. We'll try and bridge some of the gap and understand what is the difference between an audit role, which will also have a lot of financial analysis, right? And how does FP&A help us, and how is FP&A different from audit? And what would this transition mean for you, and how it would benefit you in the long run, especially if you're trying to work on the industry side and make your mark to reach that CFO level someday. Yeah. So with that context, let us start today's session. A little bit about us before we begin this session. I'm joined by my partner here today, Asif Masani. Asif?
Yeah, hi. I'll quickly introduce myself. Thanks, Dhaval, for doing this webinar. So, I am the co-founder and lead faculty at FP&A Professionals Institute, and you'll see and hear more about FPI later in one of the slides. How overall I have about 14 years of experience, more than 14 years of experience now working across different industries in FP&A. So I've worked all my career, most of it, 10 plus years in different FP&A roles. And also I've written a couple of books all about FP&A, and the most recent one, From Accounting to FP&A. So thank you so much for joining, and look forward to interacting with you later in the webinar.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Asif. A little bit about me. My name is Dhaval Parvatikar. I'm a qualified chartered accountant. I've also completed my one-year general management program from IIM Ahmedabad. Over the last 15 plus years, I have worked across diverse sectors like oil and gas, software, shared services of a commodity trading company, advertising and public relations. All of these sectors have been my expertise. I'm now the co-founder and lead faculty at FP&A Professional Institute, along with my partner, Asif. Extremely passionate about training and mentoring. So I've coached and mentored more than thousands of finance professionals. I've been an active online instructor over the last 5 years, and I've trained more than 5,000 professionals on various topics ranging from FP&A, finance leadership, business partnering, data storytelling, and much more. So that's a little bit about me. So what has been the FPI journey so far? So Asif and I have been conducting trainings, and we share the same passion for upscaling finance professionals. And we have been conducting trainings over the last 3 to 4 years. So it was in 2018 when I launched my first FP&A Foundations course, which is and also on Udemy. And that was when I launched my first FP&A course. And then in 2022, Asif had launched his book all about FP&A. It was already a popular book. It's become a bestseller. And 2022 is when we decided to collaborate and thought that, okay, we should come up with a larger set of FP&A course. And then we introduced our flagship course, which is called FP&A Masterclass, which is a blended program now where we do some live sessions and some recorded sessions. We'll talk about FP&A Masterclass as and when we progress. Moving on to 2023. So when we conducted many successful batches, over a dozen successful batches for FP&A Masterclass, people came back with a feedback that, why don't you start a self-paced version of this? We are not able to attend the live sessions. So that's when we launched our 8 weeks FP&A Launchpad course. And both these courses have sufficient examples, concepts, everything that is required for FP&A is covered in these courses. And at the end of 2023, again, we diversified. People came back with the feedback that, why don't you conduct sessions on financial modeling? Why don't you conduct sessions on, on Power BI? All of these things came up. And then that's when we started our additional courses. We have conducted some live sessions on Power BI. Master Financial Modeling for FP&A is a course that Asif personally runs. It's been successful, I believe, 8 or 9 batches for now. And 2023 is what kept us occupied with all these launches. In 2024, that's when we started this full-time. Asif and I jumped into this full-time, and we started FP&A Professionals, or rebranded ourselves as FP&A Professionals Institute. Asif, you want to just quickly touch upon the journey in 2024 so far?
Earlier it was a blog, and we were called as FP&A Professionals. So in 2023, end of 2023, I quit my full-time role at Coursera, and that's when we started to take this very seriously and get into this full-time. So it's not overnight that it had happened. We've been working on this on the side for 3.5, 4 years. And at the end of 2023, we felt like, okay, this could become a full-time full-time career for us, and we could help a lot of people while training and writing content and teaching about FP&A. So that's when I started writing my second book, which is From Accounting to FP&A. So 2024 beginning, I started writing about it. It was published just a few months back, I think July end it was published. And also we wanted to work on a very in-depth 6-month FP&A certification, which is for people who want to learn everything about FP&A and are willing to invest 100 hours of time for that. So that's when we decided, and that program we launched the first batch of CGFPA in May of 2024. And most recently, Dhaval, if you could just do one more click. Most recently, just 1 week back, we launched our most recent program. I think it's not visible in the slide. Maybe it's not there in the slide. We also launched, yeah, now it is. So we also launched our AI for Finance and FP&A program, which is we are partnering with external consultants on how we bring AI for AI specific use cases, very specific to finance and FP&A for our alumni and for our community members. So that has been our journey this year, which is 2024, and very happy to share that over the last few years, you've trained more than 3,000 students across all of these courses that you see. So Dhaval and I have together trained more than 3,000 students across all of these courses.
Yeah, extremely excited to be on this journey, and together Asif and I share close to 3 decades of FP&A and finance leadership experience, and we are happy to pass all of that into compress all of them into our courses and benefit thousands and thousands of students. So what this training is about, what are we going to cover today? We are going to cover that transition, or understanding the difference between working in a classic accounting and audit firm to working in the finance function of a large company, right? It could be a manufacturing, trading, or a services company. So that is what we'll understand the differences. If you're working in an accounting firm, then you will see how you can transition to a finance function. If you're already working in the finance function, but not in FP&A or any of the commercial side of things, then you will see how you can transition to those kind of roles as well. So what are we going to cover? Let's understand first, what are the different roles available out there in the finance function? Fit into the structure. And after that, we'll move to understand how finance is going to be different from audit, accounting, or tax, or any other roles. And then how do you prepare for it? We'll share some tips and techniques of how do you want to transition from an audit or a account or a tax kind of a role to a financial planning and analysis role. And we'll briefly touch upon any certifications or courses that are available for FP&A. So that's going to be the journey. So what we'll do is, for the next 30 to 40 minutes, we'll try and quickly cover this training. My speed will be a little bit fast, and feel free to just mark your questions or type your questions in the chat box. We'll take all the questions in the end. We'll spare some time for Q&A as well. We'll allow you to unmute yourself and ask questions during that time as well. Okay, let's move forward. There's some comment that I see. How long will it take to cover all the things? Yeah, bear with us for 60 minutes. I will try and be as fast as possible, but roughly about 45 to 60 minutes is what you should definitely keep aside. Yeah, so let's move forward. So let's understand the industry landscape there, right? So when we are talking about finance roles, you can classify all the finance and accounting profiles into 4 broad categories. Yeah. One is your public accounting space, where you have your big 4 firms or your consulting firms, right? Typically their role is consulting, due diligence, transaction advisory, valuations, audits, all of these things. And then you have your classic banks, retail banking, commercial banking, all of these things are covered in the banking environment. And then you have your institutional finance, which is your private equities, your venture capitalists or financial institutions, which are not banks. All of these things are covered here. And then you have your classic corporates, where you have your manufacturing companies, trading companies, service companies, right? Where you work in the finance and accounting function of these companies, where they may have multiple functions like FP&A, accounting, taxation, business intelligence, business finance, and a ton of other functions as well, right? You may be working in any of these 4 buckets at this point in time. Even in all of these 4 buckets, like even in banks, there would be an element of FP&A. Even in institutions, there would be an element of FP&A. Even in classic corporates, of course, there will be FP&A, right? So if you're not working in an FP&A kind of a role right now, then how do you move towards it? That's what we'll try and understand in this webinar. Okay, so moving forward. So what are the different profiles available out there, right? If you look at a large business house or a company, right, you can find a number of finance and accounting roles, but all of them can be broadly classified into 3 categories. Yeah. Category 1 is your financial reporting or compliance-oriented roles. Category 2 is your business finance or commercial roles, which is about finance, business partnering, FP&A, business finance, all of these things. And then there are some specialty finance functions which don't necessarily fit in category 1 and category 2. Yeah. In category 1, we are talking about compliance-focused activities, where we are talking about roles like preparation of financial statements, notes to accounts, getting the statutory audit done, internal audit done, filing any tax returns, compliances, regulatory reportings. All of that is covered in category 1, which is your compliance-oriented roles. Yeah. And our accounting qualifications like your CA, CMA, ACCA, CPA do a great job in covering all of these compliance-related aspects. Then comes the commercial aspects, where we are talking about activities like budgeting, forecasting, different types of analysis, revenue, cost, margins, profitability analysis, customer level profitability, product level profitability, branch profitability, so many different types of analysis, right? And coming up with management commentaries to help the company understand the performance of the business, right? Here we are dealing with all the commercial aspects. It has nothing to do with your accounting standards. It has nothing to do with your taxes, compliances, right? All of these things take a backseat. Commercial focus is something which we will be, which is covered by the category 2 kind of accounting roles. And then there are some specialty finance functions, which are all those expert tasks which don't necessarily fall into bucket 1 and bucket 2. Yeah. Here we are talking about specialist activities like treasury, forex hedging, forex management, due diligences, right? Fundraising, structured finance, right? Strategy or supply chain finance, again, is a very specific role, right? Or technology profiles as well, right? Or a techno-commercial kind of a profile where you are acting as a functional consultant for a technology product. It could be an ERP, or it could be an EPM tool, or it could be a business intelligence tool, right? As a functional consultant, you are acting as a bridge between the business teams and the coder, and enabling certain reports or working with both the teams to help the business get the right set of insights, right? Get right set of reports through these technology aspects, right? So that could be your technology profile as well. Now, whichever role you are in right now, you can classify them into one or the other broad buckets. Yeah. And some of them could be accounting or compliance focused. Some of them could be commercial or FP&A focused. Yeah. Like I said, if you are working with a very large company, yeah, then you will have a very, very specific role. Like you are taking care of statutory audits, or you can taking care of internal audits. You're taking care of SOX audit. On the commercial side, you may have a very super specific role, right? For example, you're taking care of pricing of certain products, or you're taking care of expense management for overheads only, or you're taking care of budgeting for revenue or revenue analysis. Yeah. And if it is a small to medium sized enterprise, then there's a possibility that you have a much broader role, where you would be the guy who will be working on the preparation of financial statements, and you're also preparing the budgeting and the forecasting and management commentaries at the end of the month, right? That could be a blended role where you're also managing a little bit of treasury and banking relationships as well. That is what happens in the small to medium enterprise. But larger the organization, more specific would be a role. They may have a separate pricing team. They may have a separate FP&A team. They may have a separate, working capital management team, whatever the case might be. Yeah. Somebody asked a question about project finance. So project finance is all about managing finances for a certain project, right? Imagine a company which is operating only from project to project, like a construction company or an interior design firm, right? They operate from one project to the other. So somebody needs to take care of the entire project finances, okay, and make sure that the project is being run profitably. All the reports related to the project are provided on time so that the business can take certain decisions. That is one part of project finance. The other project finance is also about preparing a proposal and going to different investors and banks to raise funding for that project. That could also be project finance. Yeah, but it is about a specific project. Cool. Moving forward. So depending on how the company is, or you're working with a larger or a smaller size company, your role could be one of these or a combination of all these kind of activities that you see on the screen. Now, moving forward. How does the nature of work vary, right? At the junior levels, all of us start with either transactional roles or compliance-oriented roles, right? And very less commercial kind of exposure. But as and when we get to middle levels, we become supervisors. Our role becomes supervisory, and we get involved less in transactions and more on the commercial, or I would say semi-strategic decision making. Yeah. And at senior levels, we are focusing on leadership elements, where compliance slightly takes a backseat. Our main focus is to run the show commercially, help the business in strategic decision making, make sure that the team is equipped with the right set of resources so that we are able to run the end-to-end finance function. Yeah. So as and when you start becoming senior, your compliance or transactional stuff starts reducing, and commercial and leadership or strategic stuff starts taking more prominence. Yeah. So that is the level. So if you are preparing for senior finance roles and you haven't got commercial or leadership exposure yet, then that's an amber or a red flag. So you'll have to start working on that exposure right away, as soon as possible in your careers. Now, what kind of a company do I start with? If my goal is to start with a commercial role or an FP&A role, what kind of a company should I start my role with? Now, the practical answer to this is that you can start with any kind of a company, but one needs to understand that if you're working with a small and medium-sized company, your finance and accounting roles will be blended with all the compliance aspect. You would be statutory audit. You will be the one who will be also preparing the monthly management report, which will tell about the performance of the business. Yeah. But if you're working for a larger company, then you may have a role where your focus will only be business finance for a certain business unit. Okay. Or pricing for a certain set of products. Yeah. That will be your role. So again, multinationals come in all shapes and sizes. Preferably, you can start with a multinational or any professional setup. It's not that owner-driven companies are not great, but just that owner-driven companies also need to be professionally managed. But if you're looking for an FP&A experience, FP&A, that is financial planning and analysis, comes into play only after a certain size comes into play, right? So that's why you have to look for a medium to large kind of an organization if you specifically want to work in the FP&A function. So what could be your role when you are transitioning from an audit or a compliance kind of a role to a commercial role? Now, you could be in one of these four kind of setups. You could be in a regional setup or a business unit kind of a setup. SBU is strategic business unit. Or you could be in a global shared services kind of a setup. Or you could be in a project or a client-based kind of a setup. Now, let me quickly touch upon all these four items and help you understand what these roles are, right? You could be in a regional kind of a setup. For example, you could be FP&A manager East, FP&A manager North, South, whatever the case might be. And you're responsible for the finance and FP&A of that particular region. And your main stakeholder would be the regional head and the corporate FP&A team, where they are consolidating all the company-wide details. You could be in a business unit kind of an environment. Take the example of an oil and gas company, which might have three business units: aviation fuel, gas, and lubricants business. Now, you could either be in a central team, central FP&A team, or you could be in an embedded finance team. Yeah. Like you could be FP&A manager aviation, FP&A manager lubricants, right? Where your main task is to liaise with the production, sales, marketing, and the business teams, and then come up with certain data which you will provide to the corporate finance team. Or you could be in a corporate finance team where you're liaising with the embedded finance team and getting all the data and compiling it at the corporate level. Yeah. Then you could be in a global shared services kind of a setup. Many American and European countries are outsourcing their finance and accounting function to low-cost economies like India, Philippines, and the likes. Yeah. Here, your role could be that you are doing analysis or you are doing acting as a support function for an FP&A manager who's sitting in Europe or who is sitting in America. Yeah. I was also working with a large commodity trading company globally, which had operations in 80 countries. And we were sitting in Mumbai, and our stakeholders were based in South Africa, China, Amsterdam, US, right? And we were supporting them with all the different kind of analysis related to FP&A. Yeah, it could be maintaining budgets, it could be pricing. We were doing that sitting in Mumbai. Right? That's a global shared services kind of a model. About a decade ago, only accounting was outsourced, but now even analysis-based roles are also getting outsourced, right? And that's how the transition is happening. So if you are in a shared services environment in India or any of these economies, right, you could very well get exposure to financial planning and analysis. It's not that these shared services are only catering to back office functions or only catering to certain accounting. Yeah, that's the global shared services example. Now, you could be in a project or a client-based kind of a setup. Like I said, think about a construction company which gets a project of constructing a refinery, right? Now, refinery is not built overnight. It probably takes 2 to 3 years to build an entire refinery. In which case, and it probably requires a couple of $1 billion of investment as well, which means that you will need to be tied to that project, make sure that you are embedded in that project and handling the entire construction project and the finances around it, right? Or you could be in a software company, like for example, many software companies have formed cluster of clients. Yeah. For example, let's say if I'm part of a software company. Within my software company, let's say there is a banking and financial services division, there is an oil and gas division, there's a manufacturing division, right? Which are catering to these set of clients, right? And these have a separate team, right? Or a cluster of clients. So you could be in this software company or a technology company where you're in embedded finance, where you're handling the entire revenue and finances for that particular division. Yeah, that's the client or a cluster of clients. Like for example, in Accenture, there's a very popular role called client financial management, right? Where you are handling FP&A for a certain clients or a certain cluster of clients, where you're dealing everything, client contracts, pricing, revenue recognition, revenue analysis, margin analysis, all that is taken care of by that client financial management kind of a role. Yeah. So that could be your role as well. If you notice, in all these 4 kind of roles, we never talked about anything related to compliance or accounting standards or TDS. Everything is around commercial analysis. Everything is around revenue, gross margins, budgeting, forecasting. All of these things is what we are talking about. Now, how industry roles or finance roles are going to be different from audit or any other compliance kind of roles. The first thing that you will need to kind of rewire yourself is to start thinking beyond compliance. Right? Businesses are not run by accounting standards. Businesses are not run by tax compliances. Businesses are run by prudent financial decisions, right? Which means that the first thing that you will need to rewire yourself is to look for supporting the business, right? And how do you support the business? By understanding the performance of the business. Now, how do you understand the performance of the business? By changing your conversations from compliance conversations to commercial conversations. You will have to start moving away from conversations which revolve around accounting standards, goods and service tax, VAT, notes to accounts, prior period items, disclosures, statutory audit, all of these things, and move towards understanding performance conversations, revenue, gross margins, product profitability, client profitability, branch profitability, contracts, pricing, budgeting, forecasting, short-term forecast, long-term forecast, long-range planning, short-range planning. All of these things are performance conversations, which will help you manage the business. If you look at a typical CFO role, right, 80% of the CFO's time goes into handling performance aspects. And probably only 20% of the time goes into compliance and accounting standards and financials and notes to accounts and all of that stuff, right? Because there's a controllership team that will take care of it. Yeah. So I hope you're able to understand that to think beyond compliances, you will have to start changing your conversations to understand performance of the business. Other mindset shift that you will need to rewire yourself for is that finance is not going to be an isolated function. Unlike accounting, where you have a set task, right? Where you'll sit behind your desk, make sure that you post your entries, make sure that the accounting is correct, and then you go back home, right? Or in an audit function where you have a fair understanding of a start and an end, right? It starts with signing the engagement letter in the audit and ends with issuing the audit report. And then you're on to the next client, right? But finance is going to be a continuous function. Okay, it's all about continuously collecting inputs and updates from various cross-functional stakeholders like HR, sales, business development, productions, operations, legal, business development teams, sales teams, pricing teams, right? And then providing adequate reports and insights to these cross-functional teams because they will be dependent on you for taking certain decisions. A business development guy will come and do the, hey, I'm getting this bulk order. Should I give a 5% discount or can I extend it to 7% discount? Right? You are the team that will analyze and give this insight to them. Right? Hey, we are selling 5 products. Is product A more profitable or B more profitable? The sales head wants to know. Right? You are the one who will be providing these kind of insights so that the cross-functional teams can take informed decisions, prudent financial decisions. Right? So it's not going to be an isolated function. If you are somebody who is shy of building relationships with people, then FP&A is not for you. You'll have to start learning that art of building relationship with various cross-functional team members. Right? When I was in a CFO role, I used to spend at least 2.5 hours in a day having probably or orchestrating informal scenarios where I could talk to all of these people. It could be over a coffee chat or a lunch. I used to always try and spend time with the business teams to understand and keep a pulse check on the business, to understand what is happening in the business so that it will help me manage my numbers in a much better way. Yeah. So that is what you will have to rewire yourself for. Yeah. The first one was that understanding performance conversations. And then second one is building cross-functional relationships and understanding cross-functional stakeholders and conversations. Yeah. Now, what are some of the key activities in the FP&A role? Right. So financial planning and analysis has 2 main segments, right? Financial planning. That is a future-looking part of FP&A, where we are talking about activities like budgeting, forecasting. Yeah. Now, budgeting is preparing your annual plan, annual projections for the next financial year. What would be my estimated revenue for the next financial year? What would be my cost for the next financial year? What would be my estimated operating margin for the next financial year? Forecasting, on the other hand, is keeping a check, right? During the financial year. Let's say I completed my Q1 actuals. I have my Q1 actuals number. And now I need 9 months of forecast, right? What would be my estimated revenue for the next 9 months? What would be my cost for the next 9 months? What would be my margins for the next 9 months? So forecasting is all about keeping a continuous track of the business, right? Management commentaries. All of us are masters at monthly closing, right? So we want to make sure that we want to close the month as soon as possible, as accurately as possible. But what happens after the month close? The management wants to understand the performance of the business. How did the month go? Right? How much revenue did we make? What were our highlights? What were our lowlights? Right? That is where your activities like variance analysis and profitability analysis come into play. Right? You carry out variance analysis to compare different set of numbers. Actual versus budget, actual current year versus previous year, current quarter versus previous quarter, all these kind of comparisons, and come up with business reasons to understand what went wrong, what worked for us, what did not work for us. Right? Profitability analysis. If we have 5 business divisions in the company, are all the business divisions profitable? Or is there a scenario that 4 business divisions are actually subsidizing a loss-making business unit? Then do we really need to continue the loss-making business unit? Is the loss temporary or is it going to be permanent? All of these kind of questions are answered by profitability analysis. Yeah, that's where your management commentaries come into play, right? And at the end of every month, you will do these activities like variance analysis and profitability analysis and come up with your set of commentaries that you will provide to the management so that they can take informed decision making. Yeah. Now, how to prepare for this shift? Now that you understood that there's a stark difference between compliance-focused roles, right? The conversations happening in a compliance-focused role versus a finance role, right? Or a commercial-focused role. So how do you prepare for this shift? See, there's no straightforward answer for this question, but there are some techniques, some tips that I can share of how you can prepare for this shift. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. So leverage your sector experience, right? For example, if you are working in an audit or an accounting function of, let's say, an insurance company, yeah, then applying for an FP&A role in an insurance company is going to be fairly easier for you, right? Keep an eye on the vacancies, and that transition will be slightly easier because at least you understand the insurance industry, you understand the terms, you understand what is insurance, what is reinsurance, what is premium, right? You understand these terminologies. That will help you to leverage your sector exposure, right? Many first-time FP&A professionals have this fear that if I have 8-10 years experience in accounting and then I want to transition into an FP&A role, will I start as a fresher? No, there are some ways that you can bridge this gap. Even in your accounting role, you may have done a lot of different kind of analysis. Highlight that in your resume. Bring that up in your resume, right? If you can convince that you are able to execute certain analysis and understand the fundamentals of FP&A, right, you will not need to start as a fresher. Yeah, leverage your understanding, leverage your analysis, leverage your sectoral experience. Find a job through your network. You will be shocked to hear a statistic that more than 50 to 60% of the roles out there are filled with unpublished job positions, which means by the time it is available on LinkedIn or any of the job portals, it's already too late, right? They would come to LinkedIn, or even if they come to LinkedIn and publish a job post, there is a chance that this vacancy could be filled internally. This vacancy could be filled with a reference, right? So try and get through to a role within your network, and that would be my advice. Make compliance your bridge, right? For example, if you are having strong experience in compliance, let's say you are Big Four trained, you have some experiences in compliance of a certain set of industries, it's okay to take up a compliance kind of a role on the industry side and transition to an industry side first. And then look for analysis-based roles or commercial-based roles. First, you need to get out of the tag that you are an auditor or you are working for a consulting company, right? And then you will be able to build your next steps towards commercial roles, right? It's okay to use compliance as that bridge to transition over on the industry side first, right? Or take a blended role in a small and medium enterprise where you're handling the compliance as well, and you have some exposure to commercial aspects as well, right? That can be your first step. Adding an your experience like Power BI, Tableau could be a plus. Again, these are not absolute necessity, but a good to have, right? You can do FP&A even without these tools as well, without Power BI, without Tableau as well. But just that knowing these tools will make your life a little bit easier. Okay, it will give you that slight edge when you are applying for a larger company who is already using these tools, right? Again, you don't need to invest like 40, 50, 60 hours to become a Power BI expert. Yeah, invest in a 10 to 12-hour course, learn the basics of Power BI so that you can put it on your resume and you get that interview call first. And then once you join a company where you see that Power BI has been used extensively in that company, then you have to invest more time to learn this tool or SAP or any other tool for that matter. Yeah. So get a basic understanding of these tools, enough to just to put it on your resume, you should be independent enough to make certain dashboards on these tools. And that should be good enough to put it on your resume. Sometimes you may have to create a reason with the qualification. Yeah. A solid base qualification is an absolute necessity for you to progress in your career, right? Now, this base qualification could be your CA, CPA, CMA, MBA Finance, ACCA, whatever the case might be. If you just have graduation, and if you don't have any of these other base qualifications that I just mentioned, then your first duty is to go and get these base qualifications, right? Because tomorrow when a vacancy will come, they'll ask you for CA with X years of experience, ACCA with X years of experience, right? Which means these kind of qualifications have become a base qualification today, right? If you haven't invested in getting that qualification, if you already have an MBA, CA, then that's a different matter, right? All you need is a little bit of upskilling to get these kind of roles. Yeah. But if you don't have these base qualifications, then that should be your priority to get it in the next 2 to 3 years. Yeah. And once you create that qualification, that can become your reason, okay, or a certification or a course or something can be a reason. Say, okay, now I have done a certification in FP&A. That's why I'm now looking for an FP&A role. You know, that can become a reason for you on your resume or in the interviews as well, or for an internal transfer as well. So many times I've seen that people are doing basic accounting kind of roles, and when they once they get an MBA finance or a qualification or some other certification, they're able to transition to some other role within the company itself, right? So that is also possible. So this is how you kind of prepare for a shift. Some, again, not an exhaustive list of tips, but some tips as well. So what are some of the next steps for preparing for finance roles, right? So I spoke to you about 3 broad categories of roles: compliance focus, commercial focus, and specialty tasks, right? These 2 buckets, right, is what we'll be focusing on. Expert tasks is not our focus today. Structured finance or supply chain finance is all a different subject altogether. So if we have to just focus on the first 2 buckets, right, you have a fair bit of understanding of this first bucket because you've already coming from some accounting qualification in your background, right? Commercial exposure is something which could be missing in your role currently, you know, which is what our focus here is, right? Your first set of roles, your compliance focused knowledge will be taken care of by your base qualification. That's your CA, CPA, ACCA, CS, CMA, whatever the case might be. Yeah. Your second bucket is something which is experiential learning, right? Back when Asif and I started our careers, right? How did we learn FP&A? We went to a senior. We asked him how a budget is prepared. He was going to show us some steps. If he's in a good mood, then he'll repeat the steps. Otherwise, he will not repeat those steps, right? So there was no organized way of learning these commercial aspects, right? There was no organized way of learning FP&A. There were no certifications in FP&A, right? There was no LinkedIn back then. There were no online courses back then, right? If our seniors are good, if they're in a good mood, we learn about it. Otherwise, we'll have to just figure out on our own, make our mistakes, you know, and then learn. But today, fortunately, we have a coach for nearly everything, from a breathing coach to a CFO coach, right? So you will get a coach for everything that you can think about, right? We live in this online world where we are connected, fabulously connected on LinkedIn. We are truly blessed to have a whole set of online courses, right? And that's where these experience-based learnings can become easier for you because you can learn from somebody's experience who's ready to teach you in these kind of courses, right? And that's where FP&A Professional Institute was also conceptualized, that if Asif and I had to hire an FP&A professional today, right, but that person doesn't have any experience, how can we train this person in 4 weeks to be up and running? How can we train this person in, within a couple of months so that he can get all those things and he can be up and running? That was the kind of approach that we used to conceptualize our courses in FP&A Professionals Institute, at FP&A Professionals Institute. And today we have courses for FP&A at all levels, right? We have beginner level courses, which is our FP&A Foundations course and 8 weeks FP&A Launchpad. We also have sessions which are on your how to prepare your FP&A resume, how to face FP&A interviews. All of those sessions are available on our portal. And we have intermediate level courses as well, which is FP&A Masterclass, Financial Modeling, Power BI for Finance, AI for Finance, and FP&A, right? So all of these are intermediate level courses, which are a blend of live and recorded version. Most of it is live, right? And then we have the advanced 6 months program as well, which is called Certified Global FP&A Professional. This is our 6 months program. We are successfully nearly completing the first batch. The second batch is going to start on October 5th, right? But this is for somebody who already has some fair bit of exposure either on these courses or has some work experience in FP&A. Yeah. But if you're not, then the beginner and intermediate course should be good enough for you to start that transition towards these commercial roles or FP&A kind of roles. Yeah. Now, today we'll talk about one of our intermediate programs, which is FP&A Masterclass. Okay. Now in FP&A Masterclass, the next batch, which is going to start on 21st of September, which is upcoming Saturday, we are primarily covering 4 modules. One is everything on budgeting, forecasting, how to prepare a revenue budget, cost budget, overheads, right? All of that is covered in budgeting and forecasting module. Management reporting and analysis, different types of management reports, flash report, month-end commentaries, how to do a variance analysis, how to do profitability analysis. All of that is covered in management reporting and analysis. Data storytelling and presentations. Non-finance functions in the company will not understand 10,000 lines of Excel sheets like how we do, right? You will need to translate that in the way they understand. That is where storytelling and presentations come into play. What chart type to use, what narrative to use, how do you communicate? How do you communicate your insights and analysis to the business teams? Can you send 10,000 lines of Excel sheets? Can you send 10 different graphs and presume that they will understand everything? No. That's where effective storytelling and communication comes into play. Module 4 is all about business partnering. Right? Is sending the data enough? No, you will have to partner with them. You'll have to help them understand. You have to become part of the solution and counsel them, coach the business teams to take prudent financial decisions. That's what business partnering is all about. Right? It's not just about number crunching. It's what happens after the number crunching, how that is put to use, how you influence the business teams to take certain right decisions. That's what business partnering is about. Right? So all of these are covered through live and certain recorded sessions. That's a blended program. In just 4 weeks, if we have to make you up and running for FP&A, Masterclass is your course, right? So apart from the 4 modules, yeah, that's an early bird code that I'll share with you about in some time. Masterclass batch 14. So we are starting on 21st September, which is Saturday. The first live session, we'll start with the introductions. And then again, directly we'll deep dive into concepts on budgeting and forecasting. Then we have management reporting in the 2nd and 3rd week. Then we have storytelling and presentations in the 3rd week. And then finally, we have storytelling and FB, finance business partnering and case studies and activities. So all of that is covered through a lot of practical experience. You're learning directly from a CFO. I've been CFO in 2 different companies. Asif has been an FP&A lead in 2 different companies, right? You're directly learning from us through practical discussions, case studies, examples, like 100% practical knowledge. Yeah? And the live session starts, live sessions are planned on every Saturday, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. IST. 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. IST.
And there's a Q&A call that happens every month also. So even after the program is over, we do stay connected. So if you have any questions, even after the program is over, we do a monthly Q&A call, which is on the last Saturday of every month at 5:30 p.m. IST. So even say after 6 months, if you have any questions after going through the program, you can just join that call and both of us will be available there, or at least one of us will be there. You can ask your questions and get your doubts clarified.
Fantastic. Definitely, you can count on all the support from us. So a little bit about FP&A Masterclass, right? So this is 16 hours of total coaching, right? Live plus recorded versions. 15 plus practical case discussions is what we are discussing in the classroom. You'll also get access to our sessions on interview preparation secrets and the resume guide, where you will get an understanding of how do you prepare, what are those subtle nuances in an FP&A resume, and what are some of the interview techniques that you will have to remember, right? All of this worth easily $1,000+. Apart from that, we are also sharing with you 3 different bonuses. One is the FP&A Foundations course, which will help you kind of build your foundations even before you start class. The FP&A Foundations course comes free with the access of the masterclass, and you can just start on your conceptual journey immediately after enrolling. And then interview and resume preparation. If you're focusing to transition on an FP&A job, then your resume and your FP&A interview preparation can be very valuable for you. That is our bonus number 2. And bonus number 3 is access to our mastermind calls, right? So monthly, we do one mastermind call along with the Q&A call, where we try and bring in experts, industry experts from different sectors, from different tools, right? So like, for example, we had ex-CFO of IBM come in and give us a session, with somebody from Adobe and come and give us a session. We had a couple of FP&A tool demonstrations that we had done, right? So you will become part of the entire FP&A ecosystem by being part of these multi-mastermind calls, right? And all this will not take much effort from you, right? In a 20, 30 year long career that you have probably ahead of you, right? you can easily take out 20 years for upskilling yourself, right? And be part of these mastermind calls for 1 hour a month, right? Which will be so valuable for you. We term it as priceless, right? So all of this put together, easily worth $1,000 of value that you will get through all of these courses and the learnings, and access to both Asif and me. Yeah, but and you can go through the dozens and dozens of testimonials that are available on our website. A lot of people have been able to transition from an accounting or a audit kind of a role to an FP&A role, and we have tons and tons of testimonials for this, right? The investment in this program, right? Let me tell you about the ROI. The ROI of this program, I leave it to your imagination, right? So if you are able to move to a finance and FP&A kind of a role, if you're in a controller kind of a role, and if you learn about FP&A, that opens the door for you for CFO or CFO-1 kind of a role, right? But if you are wanting to start your journey, take that first step towards those CFO kind of roles or senior finance leadership roles, then FP&A is a must-have today. You cannot do without commercial knowledge. You're not going to learn accounting standards and become a CFO someday. No. So the ROI of this investment in this program, I leave it to your imagination. But the investment, the monetary investment that you have to make, that typically the fee for this program is $347. But just for the webinar attendees today, there'll be a $50 off, right? And you will be getting this program for $297. $297. The link to this program and the coupon code will be shared in the chat box. Please mind you that this fee is available only till midnight today, only till midnight IST today. Yeah. So make sure that you take your decision, much more in advance. And also, we have a facility of paying this $297 in 2 payment plans as well, in 2 installments as well, right? So make sure that you take benefit of that if you are wanting to pay it in 2 different installments, right? So all in all, a great investment. We can guarantee you that this program will be beneficial for you. Asif and I are there always to support you with any questions, anything that you need on FP&A. One of the highlights of this program also is that you will be part of our alumni group, and we work a lot in the background with a lot of recruiters. We come across certain vacancies. We post all of that in the alumni group as well. Typically, the vacancies in India and Middle East are posted on the group, and you will see that you typically will see some job postings coming in on the group as well. So that's the beauty of being part of the FPI alumni community as well, which comes as an access, a default access with this FP&A Masterclass program. Cool. I think we have spoken a lot about FP&A. Unfortunately, due to the crunch in time, I'm not able to show you how a budget is prepared or how a budget looks like. But happy to take any questions that you might have, and now we can actually kind of allow the students to unmute themselves as well and see if there are any questions in the chat box. Yes, the course link and the coupon code has been shared in the chat box.
There is
Some
a
of the
question.
Yes.
There is a question. Will the class be recorded and shared later on? So yes, all the sessions will be recorded, and you will have access to the recordings after they are over, and the recording access is lifetime. So you will be able to access them anytime later on.
Yeah. The magic would be happening in the live session. So we would recommend you to attend the live sessions if possible, but if not, the recording will be provided.
Yeah, ideally you should attend them live. If you just in case miss a few sessions, like 1 or 2, you can refer the recording.
So there is one other question in the chat box. It would be great if later you can explain with an Excel example the difference between a budget and a forecast, because I really don't have it clear. Okay. Okay,
No,
let
well,
me pull up.
I have that slide open. The
You have
one
that
that
slide?
you,
Okay, great,
yeah,
great. If
the
you could
one
just
that we
bring it
use
up.
in the one
Yeah,
that we
we'll
use
spend
in
a couple of minutes because this is the most popular interview questions, by the way. People will ask you what is the difference between a budget and a forecast. So maybe there's no harm in spending a couple of minutes on this slide.
Yeah, by the
Thanks,
way,
Asif. Thanks
this
for
is a
bringing that
part
up.
of our session 2 of the FP&A masterclass. So we'll just quickly go into that directly.
Yeah,
Just give me
maybe we
one
can
moment.
go for 71, slide number 71.
Yeah, so the Google side is not responding. So just give me
Okay.
a few seconds. Let me go to. So should I go to 71?
71, yeah.
Okay, do you
Or
want to
let's go
do
to,
70?
let's go 70, 70, yeah,
Yeah.
70. Okay, let me explain this slide to you. Okay, focus on the top table, which says budget 2023. So a budget is something which is prepared before the start of the financial year. Let's say if the calendar year is the financial year, right? Then typically in September, October, the budgeting process for the next financial year starts, right? And by end of December, you have a signed budget which is signed off by the board of directors, right? And this table, top table, represents that. You have an estimated revenue from Jan to December, which is 1.35 million, estimated profit of 162,000 with 12% margin, right? This is the table. So a budget is something which is prepared just before the start of the financial year, right? Now, what happens is that during the financial year, okay, you will close your actual books. Now, you have your actuals numbers from Jan to March. If you see, you had budgeted for $100,000 as your sales, but you ended up doing $90,000 of sales in January, right? Similarly, you did 110,000 and 115,000 in Q1, right? And at the end of Q1, what we prepare typically is called a Q1 forecast, where we have Q1 actual numbers and rest 3 quarters will be forecast. We don't call them budgets again, right? A budget is a number which is frozen, which is just prepared before the start of the financial year. Now we are calling it forecast. Look at the representation. It says FOR, that is forecast, right? Here you are seeing that the number is similar to the budget from April to December, but it may undergo a change also. If there are changes in assumptions, it may undergo a change as well. And you are checking these numbers at the end of Q1. Now, when we say Q2 forecast, it will be Jan to June actuals and July to December forecasted numbers, right? So let me sum it up for you. A budget is an activity that is carried out just before the start of the financial year to come up with the projected numbers for the next financial year. Okay. A forecast is an activity that is carried out during the financial year to keep track of whether we are on course or on track with the compared with the budget or no. Right? Here it's a blend of actual numbers for the completed months plus estimates for the balance period. Right? But we don't call it revised budget. We call it Q1 forecast, Q2 forecast, Q3 forecast. Right? Or some companies would like to call it 3 plus 9 forecast, which means 3 months of actuals, 9 months of forecast. If I'm preparing a forecast at the end of May, it will be 5 plus 7 forecast. 5 months of actuals and 7 months of forecast. Okay. I hope this distinction is clear between budget and a forecast. Now let's move a step ahead. Let's go to the next slide and understand another term called rolling forecast. Like, what is this term rolling forecast? Now, the top table that you see is the same forecast table that you saw on the previous slide. Okay. But some companies use the term rolling forecast. Here, we are not the forecast from April to December, but we are going a step ahead and covering the next 3 months as well, Jan to March as well, which means at any point in time, we have rolling 12 months number. Right? When we come to June, we'll have July to next June. When we come to September, we'll have October to next September. Okay. So that is a rolling forecast. So typically, rolling forecast means rolling next 12 months. But the twist is that many companies use the term forecast and rolling forecast interchangeably. That is where it kind of gets complicated. Sometimes, I have worked with a couple of companies who used to call it rolling forecast, but what they were preparing is a regular forecast. Right? So if somebody is asking you about difference between forecast and a rolling forecast, the technical definition is this. But however, in the interview, you are free to ask them, are we preparing rolling 12 months or are we preparing the rolling forecast only till the end of the year? Yeah. Now, here's an interesting twist. What happens when we come to December? Right? In December, we already have rolling forecast for Jan to next December. Then do we really need to do the budgeting activity? Yes, most companies do the budgeting activity, but it's a very minimal, they spend very minimal efforts on it because you already have the number. By the end of December, you have Jan to December next estimates. Right? So that's the difference between a budget, a forecast, and a rolling forecast. I hope that distinction is clear. Okay, we can stop sharing the screen also. Let's take the next question.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we do
Uh,
more examples, Excel examples in the FP&A masterclass, uh, based on these concepts. So let me just take one more example. And Cesar has a comment, Dhaval, for you. Excellent explanation. Thank you. I was confused between budget and forecast. Okay. So there's a question. Sorry, I missed. In how many classes we are covering this intermediate course? So Himanshu, it's overall about 16 hours of curriculum. So it is about 5 live classes of 2 hours each. So 5 Saturdays. Of 2 hours each. So 10 hours of live and maybe 6 to 8 hours of recordings or video tracks that you will have to go through in between the weeks during the week. So every Saturday we will do live class. We will give you some sort of a pre-reading or materials to refer and come prepared for the next class. And that is how it will be 5 live classes of 2 hours each on Saturdays for the next 5 Saturdays, and about 6 to 8 hours of video tracks that you will have to go through in between the live classes. So it will be once a week live, and then you will have some recordings to go through. So ideally, you should keep aside 3 to 4 hours every week for this.
okay, so there's a question from RK Oja. It says, I have not worked in FP&A before. Should I avail this? Yes. So this is for somebody. It's okay if you've not worked in FP&A, right? This is for you. If your plan is to stay on the industry side and climb up the ladder, look for those commercial kind of roles, then at some point in time you will have to learn FP&A topics or FP&A concepts. So this course is definitely for you if you have not worked in FP&A before. Richa has a question. So you mentioned that if you are convinced that you have performed any sort of analysis ever, I wanted to ask how, as an article, CFA level 2 cleared and little experience in equity research, how and where can I start analysis work? If you are currently undergoing your articleship, my suggestion to you would be to first focus on clearing your chartered accountancy. You will get ample of opportunities to do analysis and different types of financial analysis later on in your career. Is that your question, Richard? Okay. In the meantime, let's take the next question. Himanshu says, sorry, as if I missed in how many classes? Okay, that's covered.
I think Himanshu is
Caesar is
asking,
covered.
if I may ask another, yeah, please Himanshu, you can put it in the chat box because there are so many people we don't want background noise. That's why we're not allowing unmuting right now. But feel free to type your question in the chat box.
Is this course suitable for beginners in FP&A? Yes, I've answered that question. It is suitable for beginners in FP&A. I would say beginner to intermediate level.
I think there was one more question, again, confusion regarding recording is available for lifetime. So yes, the recording will be available for lifetime.
Are plan and budget same thing? Are they used interchangeably? In some cases, they are used interchangeably, but the technical definition of a business plan or an annual operating plan is it includes the qualitative aspects as well. Things beyond numbers as well, like for example, strategy, production plan, or any of the marketing elements, right? An annual operating plan is a wholesome document which includes quantitative and qualitative aspects as well. So sometimes companies use interchangeably. We say, what is the planned revenue? Which means what they're asking for is actually budgeted revenue for the next financial year. And so sometimes they are changed. And when it comes to numbers, they are used interchangeably.
The next question is, I am working in NBFC as AVP Finance with more of a blended role, but lesser in commercial. Does this role suit to my profile?
Sorry, I couldn't hear that.
So
I'm working with,
yeah.
yeah, go on.
So yeah, it's that question. So maybe I can start and then you can add to it. So Himanshu, if you are looking to make a move into FP&A in the near future, then the answer is yes. So if you're looking to get into the FP&A side of your NBFC and if there are opportunities there, or even if not in your present organization, but maybe in any other NBFC or any other bank, if you want to get exposure to budgeting, forecasting, management reporting, and if you don't have that exposure right now, then this course will suit you. So let me just unmute Himanshu. He's requesting to unmute. So yeah, let me just unmute him. Dhaval, yeah, go ahead if you want to add anything.
Yeah, I'll just take one question before you unmute Himanshu. So Richa says, I can start with an FP&A sort of work initially in the articleship. See, if you are doing an industrial training kind of a role, and there if you get exposure to FP&A, that's fine. So you can, the course will definitely help you there. But again, whether you will specifically get FP&A in articleship or no, that really depends. But again, my focus, if I was in your shoes, then I would, my first focus would be to clear CA finals. Experience can be figured out later. You have your entire 40 years
if you're
ahead of you.
appearing for any exams in the next 1 or 2 months, then you can come back in one of the later batches.
Yeah.
Focus on those exams, then you come back. You should not be doing two things at a time right now. Okay, so I have unmuted Himanshu. Go ahead. You can go ahead and ask the question.
Yeah, hi. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. So basically, like I put it into chat that I am working as an AVP in NBFC company. So I was not actually looking into moving to a FP&A role into as a core. I was actually wanted to moving towards the CFO role. And stick to this BFSI domain only. So that is why I have categorically asked that whether this particular course, drives towards that goal or not.
Yeah.
The short answer is yes. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, short answer is yes.
I can
Himanshu again. Yeah. Sorry, Himanshu again. The CFO, typical CFO function has two things, right? One is compliance and commercial. They need to take care about the accounting, hygiene, audit, and everything, and also take care of the performance of the business, right? Performance of the business or understanding the analysis or commercial side of things is something which this course will provide you for. If in your current role, it has always been compliance heavy, right? Then you should definitely take this role. It will give you a great perspective on what commercial side looks like. That will help you. That will become your stepping stone to prepare for a CFO role. I hope that answers your question.
Himanshu, does that answer? Do you need any more clarification? Happy to add if needed.
Okay, there are more questions. I worked in internship, CapEx tracking, and help seniors in providing input for MTP and AOP. Okay, and some work with cash flow statement. How can I understand it in as a crux? Okay, I know the details of budgeting. Yeah, so if you have some exposure to annual operating plan, budgeting, forecasting, that is great. Okay, but let me tell you, FP&A role is not just about budgets. It's not just about forecasts, right? So there are many things that go into an FP&A function. If you have exposure to annual operating plan or budgets in your current role, that is great. That's probably kind of you have taken the first step towards it. But knowing other things in FP&A will help you progress in it. So that's how I would like to put it.
Okay, so I think there are no more questions in my chat box. Dhaval, do you have any more questions?
No. No more questions, but let me touch upon one or two points, right? So many see, FP&A is not something which is new, right? It has been existing since 20 years. Some call it management accounting, some call it, whatever, or some classic old school things, say, call it preparation of MIS at the end of the month, right? But what has changed over the last few years is that the sheer volume of data that the finance teams are today analyzing, right? That's why the need for financial planning and analysis has arisen, right? It's not mere MIS anymore. It's not just some management report anymore. CFOs are expecting finance team to get embedded, they get involved in the business, and then help them with proper insight so that they can take informed decisions. They can answer competitors' actions, right? That's why financial planning and analysis has become important today. Earlier also, people were tracking businesses, performance of the business through management accounting. But probably this is an extension of management accounting, or you can say a supplement to management accounting. Because today the sheer types of analysis that a finance professional is required to do has gone up significantly. Gone are those days when people used to take a P&L dump from their ERP and analyze something from the do a high level analysis, and the CFOs and the CEOs would be very happy.
Okay, so there's one more question. What is the mode of the class and the timetable? So the mode of delivery will be live on Zoom. So we will meet every Saturday for the next. So the timetable is 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. India time every Saturday for the next, starting from this Saturday to 5 more Saturdays. So it will be 5 Saturdays, 2 hours into 5 sessions. And yeah, so that will be the mode of delivery. It will be Zoom, and it will be on Saturdays at 9 a.m. India time. Also, it's there on the webpage. So the link I had shared, you will see all those details there on the webpage.
Okay, maybe one or two closing thoughts. See, all of us know that we need to upskill ourselves, right? It's like going to the gym. All of us know that we need to go to the gym. All of us know that we need to work on fitness. All of us know that we need to adhere to a certain diet, right? But execution is what matters, right? What are you really doing about it is what matters. That is what differentiates. And let me give you a statistic. Only 3% of the people in the world are genuinely interested in upskilling themselves. And no wonder 3% of the people are leading the world's organizations, right? So make sure that you take action towards it. And from our end, I can assure you that this will probably be the best investment that you'll make in your career. But the final decision is yours.
So there's a question.
Seven classes are enough for beginners. Yeah, Asif, you can take that.
I can just start, and maybe the world, if you want to add, you can add. So see this is overall 16 hours as you mentioned, and 10 hours is live and 6 to 8 hours is recorded. So like 5 live classes. So it's not 7 live classes, it's 5 live classes, and in between you will see self-paced video tracks that will be shared, and we will guide you through those video tracks, what to do, when to do, and we'll discuss those when we come to the live sessions. So it will be a executive type of a program where we will make you do some things, and we'll then have case studies and discuss those when we come live. So it will be a blend of those. So the 16 hours, the 10 hours live, and the 6 hours or 8 hours of recorded materials is good enough for you if you are a beginner to get to an intermediate level. And intermediate level is good enough to appear for FP&A roles or appear for interviews for FP&A roles and get into an FP&A role. So that is the objective of the program. If you're already working in FP&A, some things you might be aware of, you might learn some new things. So a lot of people who are already working in FP&A have also taken the program, and they always tell us, okay, I knew this part of the budget, but this was something very new. So at least 50% of the syllabus will typically be new, even if you have worked like for 2-3 years in FP&A. Yeah, Dhaval, if you want to add, if not, we can wrap up. I think that was the last question,
Yes.
and
Yes.
we are also on time, so we can maybe wrap up in the next few minutes.
Perfect. I think as a concluding thought, let me just tell everybody that, start learning FP&A today. Don't postpone this decision. If not from us, learn it from anybody you want. But FP&A is the thing, is the in thing. It's going to be in demand for the next, 5-10 years for sure, right? And make sure that you take a step towards learning FP&A today, right? And don't postpone this. With that closing thought, all the very best for all of your careers. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. We are always available on LinkedIn, and we're happy to answer any questions that you might have about FP&A or generally about your finance careers as well, right? So all the best. Hopefully we'll meet you in one of our classes.
Thank you so much, everybody. We'll see you sometime soon. Bye-bye.